Hello. Welcome to Mindful Mondays. Good to see you. Hi. Can you all hear me okay? Let's, yeah, okay. I saw a thumbs up. Let's head into the chat box and get to know each other a little bit. We're going to have about 6 of these classes, and I'm really looking forward to diving into the content. So I've designed and I'm leading these. My name is Ziegler, but these are made possible and put on by the Center for Mindfulness at CSU. And there are so many available resources. It's just really wonderful. On the Center for Mindfulness team, we're also teamed up with the CSU Health Network. So I wanted to let you know that there are a couple of classes that are happening that are open. So if you wanted to meet for some mindfulness classes, there's a 4-session workshop that's happening pretty soon called Mindfully Managing Stress. So in addition to this, we have that, and all this can be found at the Center for Mindfulness website. The volume is really low. Okay, let me see if I can turn that up for you. How's that sound? Thanks, Jesse. I see a nod. We'll go with that then. All right, I'm continuing to let folks in. Would you hop into the chat box and just let me know that you're here? I would love to get to know each of you as much as possible in these sessions and personalize the practices and such to you in your life. So maybe tell me in the chat box your name and what you're looking forward to gaining from these sessions. Hi, Deb. Grateful for this gathering. Me too. Okay. So your name, just let us know that you're here. What are you looking forward to gaining from these mindfulness sessions? Maybe it's just a break, some inner peace, some tools, connection. What else? Forced weekly breaks. Yeah. To de-stress and remember to meditate. That's great. Oh, hi, Hillary. Good to see you in here. I was wondering if you would be making it to the Mindful Mondays. That's so great to see you here again. So Justine says peace and tranquility. Hi, Dan at the CSU Extension. Need to learn how to chill, spend some self-care time for me. Grateful for these sessions, stress reduction. Laura says help with presence and some expanded time. Expanded time. What an interesting phrase. I've been thinking about that lately, how the right practice actually doesn't take time, it makes time. Like it just seems to expand time for us when we do take these moments for mindfulness, meditation. The right practice can actually expand our sense of time. Coping tools, nurturing kinder self voice. Oh, this is for you today. I'm so glad that you're here. Stress relief, spending more time in the moment, having issues with negative self-talk. Yeah, this one is fitting today. Welcome, welcome. Several years of practice, been noticing a lot of resistance to practicing lately, hoping to encourage myself a bit. Yeah, that happens, right? We kind of around in phases, and it's good that you're here working through whatever resistance might be present. Tools for mindfulness, community, grateful for these sessions. Me too. I'm still letting people in. Hi, everyone. It's so wonderful to see you all. And we're just talking about what we're looking forward to out of these sessions. You've gotten a sense of what the topic is for today, I'm sure. And if you're not sure, you just kind of showed up anyways. The topic is about working with the critical or negative voice inside. So we're going to discuss and practice mindful self-compassion, one of my favorite subjects, because it's been so helpful for me. And you'll learn a simple exercise that you can use in daily life so that instead of criticizing and judging yourself all the time, you can know how to shift out of that when you're confronted with struggles or even mistakes that you've made, and shift out of that, come back to a kinder place within. Intentional time for self-care, methods for encouraging focus. Brain is a little bit all over the place. Looking to be more present and feel more in control of thoughts and stress levels, more ability to focus. These are all great reasons for being here. Thank you for sharing. How to routinely do self-care, tackling imposter syndrome, managing self-realizations and change. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing these really well thought out intentions, hopes. Yeah, it's nice to hear a little bit more about you. So we'll dive into the session. And we'll go in and out of practicing. This will be a little bit of education, a little bit of perspective exploring, and a little bit of practice. And so you can get comfortable now, just whatever that is. And go ahead and settle in. So one thing about negative self-talk that we need to know is just how pervasive it is. Just how pervasive it is. So you might say, yeah, I'm hard on myself sometimes. But what you might not be acknowledging is the extent to which. And the thing is that it's all of us, the extent to which we are hard on ourselves. We can be critical, we can be judgmental, we can be negative. And it's not because there's anything bad, it's just that this is how we've learned how to be for a variety of reasons. But sometimes it's just doesn't work, right? It's not that effective to just berate ourselves and just go into that icky feeling. I'm an imposter, there's something wrong with me. So all of us have this going on underneath the surface in some way until we look at it, until we bring it up from underneath the surface. And I believe that it really contributes to a lot of tensions, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. So I remember sitting in a workshop with a master teacher in California, and we were talking about the self-critical voice. There's 150 people in this workshop. And the first assignment was to write down our top 10 self-judgments on a piece of paper. So I was like, okay, which is really hard to even just admit to myself. It was hard to even get those out on paper. Oh yeah, I say these kinds of things to myself. And I was able to pinpoint some of them, but some of them I know that they didn't yet have words to them yet. Like I wasn't totally aware, but there was just definitely a way that I wasn't treating myself very well all of the time. So writing them out was an interesting exercise. You might try that sometime. Just write down your top 10 playlist. What is it that you tell yourself? What is it that you find yourself saying over and over? What's the tendency? So then we got into partnership and had to share these things, whatever one we felt comfortable sharing. And then after sharing one, going, oh my God, this is really hard to even admit to myself, but I'm going to tell you, I say this to myself sometimes. I'm judgmental in this way. Then the other person said something really similar. I'm judgmental towards myself in that way too. And then it's like, okay, if you can relate to that, maybe that one's not so bad. Well, I'll tell you another one. And then the other person tells another one, and you realize those are the same. And you realize, we all realized as we came back to the big group, that these were commonalities. It's not just me telling myself this. It's not just you. But I think what that does is to realize that it takes up and lifts up a bunch of the shame from it, right? It's not just so bad. Like nobody can know that I actually say these kinds of things to myself. I don't even want to know. It's like, okay, take that shame off, lift up that heaviness. We all do this. We all do this. And the extent to which it happens is pretty extreme. Now, I say all of this just to, to make this normal, to approach the subject, like to make peace with our mind. We have to recognize where we're not peaceful in our minds, and that it's not just you as a thing. It's the human condition. It's a thing that we do. And another important realization about that voice is that it is there to keep us safe. It developed because it really wanted to protect you, keep you aligned. Have you ever noticed that it comes up in certain circumstances? Just take a moment and reflect on when you tend to be self-judgmental or when you catch yourself being critical. What happened in those moments? What happened just before? I notice that a lot of the time for me, it's after a social interaction. It's after an important meeting or something that involved showing up and relating with others. This part of us developed at a very young age in order to keep us aligned with the rules, in order to keep us appropriate and responsible, and not stand out and not get left behind, because getting left behind means getting isolated, and getting isolated means a lack of safety. We needed to somehow understand the rules and think about those a lot, right? As we developed. So it developed this way. It's no longer useful that it comes with that kind of fury, right? But it is trying to keep us safe. Oh, you could have done that better. Oh, you should have done that better. Oh, if you would have just said that in that way, then it would have been more effective. Or, all of those things come from really wanting to be safe, really wanting to fit in and do well, right? So I think that's a realization to have, is when are you critical with yourself? And then expect it, right? Be ready for that. Oh yeah, so I know that that's what's happening right now. Oh, that makes sense. I just had that situation happen. The circumstance. Oh yeah. So knowing ourselves and knowing when we're vulnerable. So it's kind of sad, right, that it is so prevalent. It's actually very sad, but it is reassuring that you're not alone and we can change this. When I first woke up to the fact that we can change our minds, I was actually surprised and incredibly motivated, because it wasn't that great in there. I would have, I felt a lot of angst, a lot of despair, a lot of self-critique, a lot of being hard on myself back in the day. And I didn't even know that the change was possible. So when we realize, oh, I can actually be a friend on the inside, I can actually change the way that I talk to myself. It doesn't have to be like that. It is huge. It is huge. It's not a quick and easy path, but mindfulness is one that will guide us through our inner world. So I believe that when the critic or the negative self voices or judgment, critique, when it's really loud and sharp and rampant and it's happening all of the time, it is hard to keep a sense of self-worth or feel like we're even connected with our meaning and purpose in life. So it's a very fruitful place to focus, to give yourself some more inner peace is, how do I work with it when I'm like that, when that happens? So please take a moment to close your eyes. We're going to do a little experiment. Just close your eyes wherever you are if you can. And then consider, how do I talk to myself? How do I talk to myself when I'm motivating myself to go throughout the day? When I'm organizing, when I'm acting, how do I talk to myself on a regular? Now consider, how do I talk to myself when I make a mistake, when I mess up? And there you might get a sense of it, even though you might have words to describe that, you might not. Might just be a general sense of ugh. But you kind of get the tone, the feeling tone there of how you are with yourself, right? When you make a mistake, especially. We talk to ourselves all of the time. All of the time. We're just kind of doing this running narrative of our lives. And it can sometimes be harsh or just, kind of mean. Oh, you forgot that. Such an idiot. Oh, you're the worst. Oh, look at that. What a mess. You're such a mess. We say these things to ourselves. Maybe you don't say those things. Some things, that we say to ourselves, we'll be like, wow, I can't believe it. I wouldn't say that to a friend. I wouldn't say that to somebody that I care about. And yet it gets said to ourselves. We don't necessarily track it. So start tracking it, start becoming mindful, because this is the juice. When I discovered for the first time after practicing meditation, actually for years at that point, then I was sitting and I suddenly became mindful of this critical, judgmental voice that I had inside. It was such an aha moment because I caught it. I heard it. I was like, oh, wow, that's it. And then that was the moment when it could start to change. So my little tip on how to do this is to talk to yourself all of the time, consciously. Talk to yourself out loud if you want or not. But the research actually shows that it can help to diminish anxiety and depression to do this. And you talk to yourself as though maybe it's the third person. Oh, Lauren, you just dropped that. Okay, well, why don't you go pick that up right now? That's all right. Just pick that up. Okay, or maybe it's the second person. So you can refer to yourself like, okay, we're going to just do this now. Okay, let's put that aside. And then now we'll do this next. Or you can say oh, you lost your keys. Okay, you're looking for them. Where did you put them? Oh, there they are. You found them. So you're consciously narrating to yourself, oh, okay, we're just going to go right over here and do this. Or, he, she is, or they are. You can use a voice that feels natural and just start to consciously talk to yourself, because then you'll catch it. You'll be much more aware, much more quickly about what's going on in there. And then I recommend trying out some self-kindness. So talking to yourself in an endearing way is an option. So if you happen to have a nurturing, quality to you, or you're a parent or you have a pet and you know what that's like to give sweetness and love in that way to others, you do that a lot of the time, then it might feel natural. So I'm a dog mom, and so I love to say it, oh, sweet girl, in this warm and supportive voice. And so it works for me, and I'll do that sometimes. But for some people, that might make them want to gag, just so you talk to yourself in the way that feels right, in the way that feels natural. So, what happens when you do this is, first of all, you get some distance. So, when we are hard on ourselves and then it has its effect, we get upset. It's easier to get lost in that feeling, being upset. But when you say, "Oh, love, I see that you're feeling really upset." Or like I'll actually find if I'm ruminating about something, just thinking about it over and over, it's like the sixth or seventh time. I'll just stop and I'll say, "Oh, okay. I see. That one's really hard for you. It just keeps coming back, doesn't it?" So it's like immediately you're separate from it. You're not so in it, fused with it. You've got some perspective. You're stepping outside of yourself and having a relationship to that difficult experience or emotion or thought, not just in it automatically. The other reason that this works so well is that we are all more familiar with giving compassion to others, to someone else. Many of us are experts at giving compassion to others. So we know how it is to be there for a friend. Even if a stranger comes up to you with struggle, with despair, with a request, you know how to use the right tone of voice, body language, the type of supportive, warm, caring things that would help, some advice. So tapping into that capacity you already have and then just turning it into yourself. Let's say someone had a really warm, caring grandma, who was just always sweet and kind. And then they think, what would grandma say? How would she say it? So then, it's still coming from oneself, but it can be helpful to hear it from another person, like a grandparent or a teacher. So it's really whatever works for you. So say you're going about your day and you're doing this. Say, I don't know if you ever feel like you have a lot to do on your to-do list, if you've ever had that experience. But it's like, okay, there's this, this, and this, and this. Ah, you know, and oh no, this thing just came into my email, because that's important too. All these things are important. So I don't have time for this. Whether you are saying that to yourself consciously or unconsciously, becomes consciously, okay, you can figure out how to fit this in. One thing at a time. How about this one now? Or am I totally gonna I'm totally gonna fall on my face when I give this talk? Can say, no, you will give the best speech of your life. So it's about supporting yourself in the way that a good friend would. Right? Not about telling yourself something positive just to will it to be true, something that you don't necessarily believe, but you're talking to yourself to be a coach, to support yourself. So, oh, I messed up becomes, okay, how can all right, what should we do with this? Can we do something? So talk to yourself. And this way, I think instead of just ignoring the difficulty and just pushing through with a stiff upper lip mentality, you tell yourself, this is really difficult right now. How can I comfort and care for myself in this moment? Just like a good friend might say, hey, I see that you're having a hard time. So you can start to talk to yourself and talk to yourself kindly. Let's try that on. Get into a comfortable position. So with your eyes open or closed, you can do this anytime in the day or night when you just need to pause, become more mindful. Say you became aware of a strong emotion, worried about a thought. can pause, and then could be nice to place your hands on your body. Maybe one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, or another place on your body that might feel supportive, comforting. Touch can help this way. You don't need to use it though, if it's not comfortable. Now, please imagine the ideal caring and compassionate figure, somebody who just, is there for you or has been at some point in your life. Maybe this person is like a good friend, a teacher or elder who's been kind to you at some point earlier in your life. This could be a spiritual teacher, wisdom figure, even something more abstract. See if you can picture this. Maybe it's a person that you know. Maybe it's imaginary. Just get a sense that that ideal, caring, and compassionate figure is out in front of you. Let's say they notice that you're suffering in some way, being hard on yourself, or just having a difficult moment in life. What might that figure say to comfort you? How might they say it? What feelings are conveyed through their tone? And then if it feels difficult, you might be trying too hard. It's just, you know it. You know how a friend is when it really feels effective. Maybe there are words, or maybe not. Maybe they're just there, just there in the right way. And then try on a couple of ways. Maybe a term of endearment if it feels like it might be useful. Dear one, or sweetheart, buddy. It just be like, hey, you got this. I believe in you. Yeah, that's going to heal. That's hard. Who might they be with you now if they weren't trying to fix it, change it, make you become more positive? They're just acknowledging. Yeah, that's okay. Be that ideal, caring, and compassionate figure can even give you permission to feel what you're feeling. It's okay to feel that. You can feel that as long as you need to feel that. I'll just be here with you while you feel that. Whatever you feel, maybe a little bit resistance, maybe a little bit of agitation or anger, sadness. You can feel that right now. Okay. So take a deep breath and start to open your eyes, come back to the room. Consider any insights or, experiences that you had. And that quality of just being there like a friend is just shows up and is there for you. In my experience, this can feel a bit awkward at first, especially if you're not used to talking to yourself that way. And it could even bring up more pain because now I'm aware that I'm talking to myself so negatively. Oof, that's not great to see. Maybe I don't like that. But we can have acceptance, compassion, even for that. That's a difficult experience. And it starts to shift as more and more you just familiarize yourself to having this friend on the inside versus someone who's berating you. And then it becomes profoundly stabilizing in a sense of inner resource and security to have that available no matter what. Let's talk about touch because we did that little bit of kind touch here. And it is part of being human to respond to touch. We are mammals with our caregiving attachment systems. And all animals, all mammals show care and tenderness and love through touch. So when we touch, we start to receive that. Whether we're doing anything, if you just rest your hand here or even fall asleep sometime like that, you're going to be getting the benefit. There's a flow of hormones that open up, like oxytocin, providing feelings of warmth, comfort. And it helps to metabolize the stress hormones that might be there in the body. So already just placing your hand here can be a shift. Now, I think that it's powerful to get any kind of touch, that the way that it can feel really good when a friend gives you a hug, good hug from a friend. So it's not that, touch from others is better, or touch from yourself is better, but what I've noticed is that when you do, comfort yourself in that way, or just be with yourself, pause and be with yourself through touch in that way. What it does is it's like, that's coming from you. And so it's building self-love. It's building active self-compassion in that relationship. Because part of you knows I'm getting this from me, and it can be very fulfilling. Also, it's always there. It's always available. Sometimes touch isn't available from others. But maybe your dog, or your stuffed animal or something, something that is available all the time can also provide that sense of touch. I have a student who her number one strategy is to pet her cat when she's feeling overwhelmed. So just this sense of touch is part of it. Okay. Finally, I want to talk about how universal this is to have a negative critical voice. So now we know how prevalent it is. It really contributes to a lot of our angst and tensions, and that we're not alone. But it can be extremely isolating to feel that we are alone. So it is part of being human to have difficult experiences. We know this logically, but sometimes we need to remind ourselves in the moment in order to really kind of come back to that realization. This is part of the human experience. We so often think, oh, it was just me that got dumped, or it's just me that failed, or it's just me that's left out. And it can create that separation that is so painful. FOMO, right? But why wouldn't those things happen in life? Getting hurt, feeling upset, even getting an illness. These things are part of life. They do happen. So this common humanity is something we can mindfully remind ourselves of and have a shift with it. So I've personally, I found it incredible because knowing this wisdom, right? Suffering, pain is part of life, just as much as joy and pleasure. Both are there, often all at once. I have to remind myself in the heat of a strong emotion, strong feeling. Let's take sadness, for example, the loneliness. Just to remind myself, like, this is the human experience. This is part of it. Why shouldn't this be happening? This belongs basically in the scheme of it. This fits, I guess. I don't like it. This feeling is uncomfortable. I don't want it. But I can recognize that it is here in the moment and it is part of being human. So I say something to myself like, of course, this is how it is right now, of course. Or I say, I'm not alone on this, others too. Or I say, I'm not exempt. I'm not exempt. Oh, yeah, this would happen. This could happen. So it's a recognition consciously of, hey, this is part of humanity. This is part of being human. And it really releases the resistance to it. We think it's so shameful. It's so bad. It's so bad. But if we can do this, we can become mindful of it, kind of embrace it and say, yeah, I'm gonna talk to myself with this. And I'm gonna recognize that this is part of being human. It really relaxes something on the inside, really settles something deep inside. It de-emphasizes the sense of separateness, and that we can be mindful of whatever happens in this way. And then it's just part of it. Okay. Finally, a lot of people think that, like in this workshop that I was talking about, I saw several people inquire about the fact that, well, if I'm not hard on myself, so it was we dig down, we realize that there's so much to this hard on ourselves. And often there's a belief, if I'm not going to get anything done. I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to be apathetic, or I'm going to be indulgent, or I'm just going to lay there on the couch. People really believe they need to be self-critical in order to motivate themselves. They need to be hard on themselves to create the change that they need to be safe and happy. But what they don't realize is that there's a more effective way to be safe and happy, which is to be kind to oneself. It kind of works to just push through in that self-critical way, like just that really intense disciplinarian coach or dictator. Just do this, do that. You gotta, or else. It kind of works, but the problem is that it undermines your self-confidence, makes you afraid of failure. It inhibits your motivation and leads to procrastination. And you can eventually just give up because you stop believing in yourself. It leads to performance anxiety because you're going to beat yourself up if you don't do it. But if you motivate yourself compassionately, then you're doing it not because you're afraid that you'll be inadequate, but because you care about yourself, you love yourself, and so you want to reach your goals. So this leads to the growth mindset, and it's a much more healthy and sustainable form of motivating yourself. So regardless of the attack of self-judgment, regardless if that stops or if you continue to find yourself being hard on yourself, whatever happens with it, we can find space and ease and not be so fused with that condemning thought, not believe it automatically. Oh yeah, I am a piece of crap. No, we actually can understand that we don't need to believe those voices or listen to them. Okay, I think of an example is being coated with Teflon somehow. Like I have this protection around me where the rainwater comes down and it just like the insults come down and it just washes off the Teflon. It just like doesn't stick, like water on a duck's back. Just those things can happen. They continue to happen, but they're not having an effect. So let's bring this all together. Close your eyes for a moment. Become mindful of what might be present there for you right now. Maybe this all brought up something in particular. What is present there? What's alive in me right now? You might ask. Now, whatever it is, recognize that it is part of humanity, part of being human. That at times, this experience is present. It belongs in the scheme of it. And finally, place your hands somewhere, if you like, sense of touch. May I be kind to myself now. May I be kind to myself. And then just sit in that. Maybe something comes from that. A message of reassurance or care. Maybe you just sit in that vibe of being cared for. Times it might feel really good. Times it might feel uncomfortable, as I said, or maybe even not much at all happens, but keep practicing it. It won't take long for this to start to shift. So you become mindful of the ways that you are hard on yourself and then acting with this method. Hey, let me just stop, be mindful, common humanity, and then some kindness. Yeah. I would love to hear any reflections if you want to drop those into the chat box. Any questions or requests for our next session moving forward? Oh, thanks for saying so, Deb. I really appreciate the opportunity to share all of this with you in this community. Yeah. And I want to mention that we'll be here next Monday. And also, if you are interested in learning more meditation, getting more resources, coaching, and connection with me, my membership is open now. It's called My Still Life. So you could go to mystilllife.co and learn about that opportunity to go deeper with these practices if you're finding something really resonates or you want to get more support or engagement and accountability. Okay, wonderful to be here. Thank you all, and I'll see you next time. Be well.